in life in general, in our world.
I know, or as they say, it's new year, new you.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's so funny because it's not a new you. And that's what I get really caught in. It's not a new you, it's the real you. And the who is not you is falling away. So we don't want to invent ourselves. We want to unfold into our authentic self. And that's no in we're not inventing or creating a new self.
Do you think that sometimes people confuse it too? Instead of like it's a
Yeah.
new version of themselves, it's just the version that should have always come out, like the real version?
Yeah, I do. It's really funny because it's fun. Someone had just written on one of my social media posts, and I've got this program called Awakening Within and a Path to Inner Freedom. And it is about waking up to becoming our authentic self as we let go of these untruths of what we've been doing and how we've been behaving and how we've been manifesting and everything else in our life. And this person said, it's all about everything has changed, but nothing has changed. And that's kind of a feeling that you get when you let go of who you are not, and yet it's so familiar, like this is really me. So is it, you're not inventing, it's just becoming more of you. So there's not the sense of I'm putting on a role or an act or whatever. It becomes just more authentically natural. So that's how I would describe it. Like it's like, oh, this is so normal. This is me. This is it. And it's easy and it's not tested or triggered. Like it's natural. It's authentic.
So would that be something along the lines as um I've had a situation come up in my life. It's put me in a reflective perspective, and then I'm bringing out that terrain that was always inside me because maybe I was hiding it away from the world.
Oh yeah, and that can come in so many ways. It can. Like we can one of the things that came up is I was just pulled a card before we did this and what am I going to do and stuff. So let's just take one term called sacrifice. Okay. So a lot of times our actions can be like we sacrifice doing something for someone because maybe started off we felt really guilty. If we sacrifice, they would love us, or we sacrifice to get our needs met, for manipulation or something like that. So what we're doing is we're giving something or doing something, but it comes out of sacrifice. And someone can do the same action, but it's coming from joy and from love. Okay. So when all of a sudden, say we do our healing work and we realize we're doing this and we wonder why we're getting resentment or our needs aren't getting met, and we have this awareness and we let go of the guilt and we let go of all of that stuff. And then we start doing something natural. It's like, this feels different. This feels more me. I'm doing it because I really want to, or something like that. Kind of those little shifts that take place, and sometimes they're huge.
And I would say they're probably difficult as well because if I were to think about myself now, that could be kind of scary that you're living your life this way all these years and then something happens, you're like, oh my God, Melanie, this is the person I should have been all these years. Like, how do we cope with that?
I don't think it's a case of this is the person who I should have been. I think there's a place of where there's this freedom that comes up, is there's this relief, there's this release, and there's just this like, and the pieces of the puzzle. So it's more a reflection of, oh, this just feels so much more at ease. I'm more natural within myself. So there becomes grace. There's becomes, so it's not, I've never met anyone who kind of goes from, oh my God, I've been this way. There's this release. And then the podcast, not the podcast, but the series that I have is we can have that release, and then our outside world is still expecting us to behave a certain way and be a certain way. And that's the hard work. How can we stay in this release and authenticity of who we are when the world around us was used to us being a certain way? It's like, what happened to you? Why are you not being the way that you were? You were always a giver and now you're not doing as much. Or you were always a pleaser and now you're not doing this. Like, what happened to you? So we go through another stage. Is not like what you had said. It's more like, oh dear, is this okay? Is it okay to be me in the world? Things are mirroring back to me that this is not who you were, you were always like this. You were always this. So,
And I wonder if that could lead to like a identity crisis because you're balancing between your how you were, how the world views you, and now you're viewing yourself differently, and now you want the world to view this way. Like, how do we
yeah.
find a balance then between the two?
Whoa, hard work. that's where that's where you it takes patience, and this isn't it takes communication, and it takes courage, and it takes going through all of the things that led you. For example, it's easier if we take one thing. Let's just say you were always a pleaser. Okay. So it's easier to take a metaphor and sort of like, use that instead of all over the place. So if you were always a pleaser and you realized you were doing that because you never really thought you were worthy, that you were, the bottom root, lovable, so you always pleased to get that back. Someone would, love you, accept you. But you found after a while it was because you were building up resentment. You weren't looking after yourself. And all of a sudden you go to a therapist and you have this epiphany and you have this, oh, that's why I'm doing it. And you realize you are lovable, that wasn't the truth. And you say, I'm not going to do it from that place. If I want to please, I'll please from a place of joy because I want to. And you checking in with yourself, am I doing it because I feel obliged or because I want them to love me or to like me? You make those changes. The outside world says, what the heck is going on? Would I ever asked you for something, you always said yes. you know and you're going to get that back. And so yeah, there's a little bit, oh, is this okay, is this not okay, because you're not quite grounded in who you are, and the world is saying like, this wasn't who you are, what happened to you, this is not okay. And there's going to be a weeding out process of those that will move along with your transformation and those that were only in your life, let's say, that were always takers, and now you're not giving, so I'm moving off. Or the pressure or that disgruntled mirror back, like what's wrong with you, can bring up that little bit because you're not fully there yet and fully integrated into not having that behavior and that pattern. You can get pulled back into it. Next thing you're doing the same thing again because it's just like, that's why I did it, because that was my reason why I pleased to begin with, is so somebody would love me, somebody would think I was great, or whatever the case may be.
And how does that affect the person in their relationships? Let's say at work or romantic relationships, or even with just their personal relationships. How would that impact them?
Huge. It does. I mean, like, who are you? Like, this was not the person who I got the relationship into. So in the series that I have, it's learning how to communicate it in a compassionate way, instead of this hard, well, I'm never going to do this and that's it. It's just like, I used to, and you share your experience about it. But you can either move with the relationship and share, in a compassionate way, this is where I'm changing, this is what I realize, and you open the dialogue. And it may take time for them to get used to you this way. So in my series, I have all these little things that you can do and how you can do it. It does not mean, however, that it's a guaranteed thing, because some people are there for a reason, and not for the full thing. They're not moving and growing along with you. And it's just like, no, this is who you were supposed to be. This is why I got attracted to you, because you were always the giver and now you've stopped. Or you were always the doormat, or you were always this, or you were always, and it can be something that's perceived as positive too. You were always the strong one. And then you have a breakdown, and then you realize, hey, I've not been receiving in my life. I was always, doing and giving and doing all that. And then I had a crisis, and now I'm just realized there's nothing left in me and I want to receive. How come you're not giving to me? So
And I
it's going to
wonder,
change.
Yeah, like I'm looking at my own life if I was ever in a situation like that. And I think that maybe I was because I made changes, especially in my 20s and my 30s. And I'm just looking back and I'm thinking, Melanie, like how much of that was I was becoming a person that I should have always been, or maybe not always been, but I was becoming my real me,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But I buried it because of the people around me, because I'm looking back now and it wasn't cool to be that way. It wasn't
yeah.
acceptable to my peer group, at least, right? So as I
Mhm.
became the real me, everyone around me kind of fell away.
Yeah.
Now you're lonely. Now you're alone. And I'll be honest, there's times where I'm thinking, okay, maybe if I just try to have one foot in one world and one foot in the other world and walk like that, right?
I've
And you only
tried
could,
that. It
I've
doesn't
tried
work.
that. It doesn't
Yeah.
work.
No, it
It
doesn't work.
lasted a couple of weeks. And then after a while,
Yeah.
you're like, it became so stressful. Was that the same thing for you?
Yeah, the tension, the stress of trying to live in two worlds. It's like I was two-faced. There's two people going on in here, for this group of people. And even in my family, as I started, doing the work that I was doing, and I was spending a lot of time in India and meditation and awakening to my own and all that. My brother, I remember, and it's in the series that I do, he would go, "Are you okay? Are you in a cult? Like, what's going on with you?" Because even in our family, we have family dynamics. Like, we have a role that we play, and when we break those rules, it disrupts the family dynamic, so it becomes like, what is going on? Like, and then it just caused this ripple effect as I stayed steadfast in what I was doing. But the whole relationship within my whole family broke apart because it was this symbiotic relationship. I do this, you do that, and you do that. And one person comes out of the fold, and it's like, whoa, what the heck is going on? Now, as it turns out, honestly, I'm the first person that my brother comes to who asks for advice. If he wants to know the truth, if he wants to know something, he comes to me. Whereas before, I was just the black sheep, and I was the one that was always in trouble and everything else. So I've kind of become the guru, in the family. So it changes everything, but it didn't mean it was easy. There was a lot of disruption, and a lot of, who are you? Me feeling obliged to my own family that this is the role that I've always played. This is, just for them to see me in a different light, where for the longest time they did not want to see me in a different light. This is the way they saw me, and I played it very well, and there was purpose for me to play that role. I was the distraction for the family. As a black sheep, if I could be the distraction, then we didn't have to look at all the other stuff. Then all of a sudden that flips right over. Hey, I'm the one who's going right in for the truth. Well, you don't think that caused disruption for the family, where I would point things out, well, you guys are all, this is all illusion. This is what's going on here. Wake up and see it. So yeah, it would cause a lot of disruption.
It's like someone's holding up a big sign displaying everyone's issues, right? Like everything
Yeah,
that's wrong with them.
yeah,
And then everyone's pointing at you is like, get out. You
yeah.
can't do this, right? Right. But the flip side is that they all get together and then they look at you and now they're united in a way that they're finding maybe what's different with you, what's wrong with you, instead of figuring out what's going on with them. Because as you mentioned, it's a distraction. And I wonder for you, since you went through it, how difficult was it for you during that period of time where you're coming from a place of good faith, but unfortunately is not being well received?
It was very difficult. I'm not going to lie about it. In different aspects of, with my sister, I was always in a role with this way and shifted that role. But my commitment, and this is what I emphasize in this series, my commitment was to come back into the family with the intention of healing and love and compassion. And I think, when you come in like hard ass, you're just going to bang and you're going to do it and you don't care and you're all bad and you're all wrong. I kind of look at it in a sense as these gifts or these qualities of who we authentically are, okay, are there for a purpose. And it's believed that we choose our families, whether we want to like it or not. If you can imagine we're somewhere out in the cosmos and we have these amazing gifts, right? And we say, now, who needs it the most? And you choose this family and you go, they do. I'm going in. I'm going to go and help because I want to, help heal this whole world and this planet and everything else, or whatever the case may be. I want to give them this, right? So you come in, and then it's all of a sudden like, holy crap, and you just are so little, and there's no way you're going to give those gifts. It's not received, and you lose all of that. And then you begin to conform to fit in, because no matter who we are, we're out for survival. And we need that tribe around us to survive. We're just not big enough to go out and get our own food and do this. So we will do whatever we need to do to ensure some kind of survival mode. So we that's where it starts. We begin to change ourselves. We begin to adapt to fit in. We begin to camouflage ourselves, but the camouflage becomes so ingrained in us, we begin to believe this is really who we are. We forget. But it's funny, and as much as we think we forget, there's always a part of it that doesn't forget. And that's where this conflict within starts to rise up in illness, in, the dark night of the soul, or whatever it happens. It begins to rise up because I think it's the nature of our authentic self is to rise up and be here for what our purpose is to be, which is authentically ourselves. That's it. Nothing more. It's not to do this or that, but in that authenticity is our purpose naturally is presented. It's already there to us. So
So, Melanie, so when it comes to then, let's say, um, those who haven't realized their real self, could it be that the person that they're portraying now is a sense of protection for them?
can be, sure, absolutely. And it can be a lot of other things. I mean, I think it's, um, I think it's so multi-dimensional and multifaceted. I mean, it's like peeling off the layers of these aha moments as we come rare. And those are the ones that, where it's just like, boom, you're enlightened, like it's usually not quite so fast. It's usually a series of evolution as you move through life, and you realize if you're on this path of I'm going to call awakening, that there's a part of you that wants to evolve, to heal, to unfold. I mean, it's just a natural thing. And then there's the rare occasion that you're in front of a guru and poof, everything falls apart, and it's just like, whoa, you're here. And you've heard, and there's some leaders out there who've had that happen, and or say that it's happened or whatever. I'm not there to say this way or that way, but to me, that's in an enlightened state. And then you have shed everything that's not. I'm talking about an awakening state is where you're generally most people are awakening, and to remain in enlightenment. My guru had said to me, to be in enlightenment is to walk through the mud and not have